Ready?
Thanks.
So as always, the first agenda item is public comment, but I don't see anyone here who would want to speak, so.
Actually,
Oh,
have a
oh, okay. Yeah, please, so let me just go through the rules real quick. I don't have the whole spiel, but it's you get 3 minutes and we keep comments civil, so yeah, please go ahead. Sorry about that.
Oh, I can go?
Yeah, please.
Hello, everyone.
Name from where you're from.
Yes, sir.
3 minutes.
Hello, everyone. I'm Samuel Bundren. I'm from Highlands Ranch, Colorado. So I'm building a startup and was hoping I can come to you all today just to gain some feedback, understanding. So the startup I'm creating is called Trush. It's about allowing waste to be more appropriately disposed of and such as recyclables, compostables, a little bit of landfill, but mainly focused on compostables and recyclables. So I was hoping I could just meet you all, connect, and see how we can keep moving forward and just learn from you all and such too. And yeah, I guess I've been meeting the other environmental teams such as the sustainability committee at Inglewood too. So you guys are coming all. So thank y'all.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for being here.
I was hoping to just connect with y'all.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Thank you. All right, so sorry about that again. I'm here. Public comment. So and the only discussion topic we have is South Suburban's here. Thank you. We'll go around and do some introductions in a minute. So presentation and discussion on South Suburban Park and Rec with Executive Director Rob Hanna. I know Steve. And also Jim had some things he wanted to talk about before we dive in. So
Well, yeah, thank you. And good to see you all again. Thank you for continuing on this summer. I apologize I was not able to attend and changed meeting schedules, but I am still eager and active to be involved with your community as things are moving forward. So actually, Jim and I are going to kind of split the announcements I had. So I'll talk about one program that is kind of upcoming and that you all might be interested in. Now, I want to preface this by saying we have not brought this in front of council for vetting, so you're not receiving council direction, merely posing these opportunities to you all to see if you have interest in integrating them as concrete pieces of work included into your work plan. And if that were something you would like to prioritize, we at council would love to receive direction from you all to say, this is an initiative, policy, program that we think has value and would be worth exploring in further detail. So with that being said, the one I wanted to talk to you all about today was the Denver Regional Council of Governments, Dr. Cog. And see, I remember this. I remember the rules of this group. So I defined my acronym.
Don't get buzzed.
Yeah, exactly. So what I think I spoke to you all, I think maybe earlier this year that Dr. Cog was looking to apply for the EPA's Climate Pollution Reduction Grant Program. And as of about 2 weeks ago at this point, we found out that Dr. Cog was awarded this grant. They are one of 25 kind of regional metropolitan planning institutions across the country to have been awarded this award. $200 million is the top line, which is kind of that's even quite an elephant to eat, even for Dr. Cog. And so they are now in the process of negotiating their work plan and contracting arrangements with the EPA. And the next steps that follow from that are how do they go about executing all the points and plans in this? So I thought about killing you with a PowerPoint, but I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'll kind of just briefly summarize and kind of invite for your, if you would like to explore this further. So it's funded through the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA, and primarily focused on energy conservation, and is included in the Justice 40 initiative. So Justice 40, if you're not aware, is where at least 40% of investments through the federal government's large federal grant programs are directed towards disadvantaged communities. So this particular program, the CPRG, is going to be directed at electrification as well as targeting disadvantaged communities for electrification projects in the household. This can be appliance changeouts, rewiring, it can be energy audits, it can be a whole host of things. So that is one bucket of work. Another bucket of work is going to include workforce development and training across the Denver metro region. The city of Denver and the city of Boulder are actual co-funding partners. They are going to be contributing their time, effort, energy, staff, and money towards workforce development and training for the increased need for professional electrician services across the Front Range. As we know, that is a limiting factor in any of our electrification work. So that is another bucket of work.
Sorry, how does all this interact with Littleton and the board and?
Yes.
It sounds like a wonderful program. Yeah, what do we do about it?
So we are now at the inception stages of these grants being finalized. DRCOG board members are going to, including myself, are going to be invited to sit on advisory boards. And at this point, staff are now being invited to participate in the formation of requests for proposal RFPs around each of these tasks. So there's about 8 or 9 in total. And according to the DRCOG staff members who are leading this program, they are inviting municipalities to begin their participation. The nice thing about being invited to the table for participation at this stage is that we have a hand in creation, formation, and also understanding of how this money is going to be distributed and how it's going to be bid on by all these local municipalities.
Do we have a sense of that now? Is it going to be sort of size of the municipality or quality of proposal or?
Quality of proposal. So municipalities, large and small, and it is really, again, targeted at disadvantaged communities, but also what are the kinds of resources that each of the municipalities can bring to the table as far as executing on some of these grant efforts. The reason I wanted to bring this up is because I know in your team's work plan, a huge part of this is obviously revolving around climate, around energy conservation and electrification projects. The city in and of itself does not have, and quite frankly, may not even in the near future have a large enough sum of money to actually execute on any of that kind of vision. This is kind of a one-time going around the bend merry-go-round of money specifically dedicated for that purpose. It's really excited that we have an environmental stewardship coordinator or sustainability coordinator, staff person coming on board. I'm also not here to direct that level of staff as to what they are supposed to be doing, but I would prompt you as the ESB to say, we would like to have a degree of participation in the formation and execution of this program. It is 5 years. So even if we don't have the resources to dedicate to it tomorrow or even 6 months from now, that does not exclude us from this work. But it is a unique opportunity that is likely not going to be coming around the bend again.
Sounds like a bit of an aligning of the stars. There's $200 million that shows up right when this board has come online and has a work plan. Brett has been our staff liaison, is now permanent public works director. And we've got a sustainability coordinator who is hired or imminently
She's-
going to be hired.
She starts on August 26th. Her name is Laura Rosenbaum, and
That sounds like a great opportunity.
I believe it is. And I think organizations like DRCOG benefit so greatly when municipalities themselves are on the ground floor. Now we would be punching way above our weight class in terms of the fact that if we were seeking to have some degree of participation in this program, even in the formation of it, showing that vested interest and how it folds into our city's priorities, that's only really been in the realm of Boulder and the city of Denver. Quite frankly, that is punching way above our weight class. They know we're interested, and now they are asking us, how would you like to participate? Now, I've already indicated that I, as a director, cannot participate in things like RFP formation. That's a conflict of interest. However, I will be lining myself up for the advisory board when that starts later this year. that wouldn't necessarily also be a conflict of interest in Littleton's participation. I would essentially recuse myself of any decisions surrounding any applications we would put in. However, it's a unique opportunity to see how these projects are being crafted and formed. I will say too, we have, getting back to this Justice 40 initiative type work, and this is something I think Rob's team and knows around working with disadvantaged communities and looking for parks, open space projects specifically directed at those communities as well. That's something that's kind of familiar to your portfolio. This would be very much in line with that kind of work. We do have a sizable portion of our city and District 4 that technically qualifies CJEST and Climate Justice, Equity, Sustainability. T stands for something. CJEST is a mapping tool that identifies where disadvantaged communities are located based on a number of factors. And we have nonprofits that already participate in a lot of community outreach and activism in a variety of ways in those communities. That's the kind of alignment that DRCOG is going to be looking for in that kind of work.
I'll also sense of how this board might participate in these processes.
Well, I think there's a number of ways. One, at the time that these kinds of RFPs for tasks are being released, there's going to be lots of different opportunities kind of coming at us as a city simultaneously. And quite frankly, it's a bit of a challenge as to figure out where we are best aligned with some of those actions coming out. So I think knowing what is coming down the pike and having some degree of involvement at this inception stage would be really critical. And then the second part of it, obviously, is there is a significant amount of coordination if we're talking about residential homeowners, nonprofits, city government, other institutions collaborating and working together to put together proposals. I don't want to lay the entirety of the world on our new stewardship coordinator who has not yet started, but I would say seeking some, working through that direction and assisting where possible would be absolutely huge.
What kind of a timeline is all that up? Do you know?
So the contract signing for this program is happening now and is expected to be done sometime this fall. That's why they are now developing requests for proposal templates for all the tasks included in the work plan. And those are expected to be solicited early next year, sometime in the kind of early spring, late winter timeframe.
For now, we stay tuned and wait to hear from you or Jim or Brent or the sustainability.
Yeah, I would also say too, this is something I haven't yet brought to council because in terms of action about involvement, obviously our sustainability coordinator may play a key and instrumental role in that, and they need to find themselves a desk and a badge first maybe, but I think it would make a strong gesture of getting towards some of our sustainability goals by having letters of recommendation to be included or be involved in some way. And I would obviously advocate really passionately on behalf of a proposal from this group.
Cool. Well, thank you. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And Jim, what do you have to add to?
I think, we're learning about it. Steve's out in front and I think it's big for Littleton that he is. So, we've been kind of following and learning about the program. I think we still have more learning to do about the things that staff thinks about, like what are the specific kinds of, programs, timing of the potential work, how this fits. I think, Brent and we will have to think about how this work fits within the other kind of priorities from the action plan that we've embarked on. We will have some more conversation with council about some of those priorities and how this fits, but I certainly think it's a big opportunity that we need to look at and get serious about, applying for and see how it can fit for Littleton.
And you had some other things you wanted to talk about as well.
Yeah, I will take the mic for just a second. So we've also been following the regional air quality, the RAC acronym, which is how I've.
Regional Air Quality Council.
Council, yes, the RAC.
Yeah, it's
Both the
terrible way to spell that word.
Regional Air Quality Council, on some of their latest initiatives, as this group I know, they've been pioneering for several years. A lot of the electrification of equipment has been a big thrust of theirs, but I think they're into their next frontier. And one of the kind of current initiatives is around anti-idling for vehicles and air quality, of course. And so I think that's an opportunity. Our Mike Gent, Deputy City Manager, who this committee knows, has actually had some conversation with their staff and wanted, me to just check for head nods. If this committee would like to, would like us to work on a presentation, their staff's willing to come kind of, present to this committee about the work that they do, that the Air Quality Council does, and then I think have a little deeper conversation of, about thoughts on the anti-idling initiative. So fair enough. Is anything else to
I got plenty of, is it okay if I take 30 seconds? Met with the members of the RAC and the person heading up this initiative at Colorado Municipal League this last year. Part of this anti-idling ordinance, so you may already be aware that Colorado has state statute with regards to idling and emissions of personally owned vehicles and commercial vehicles as well. And this program is seeking to essentially see if there is interest amongst different municipalities to even further restrict emissions through anti-idling ordinances. And it can be done in a couple of ways. This program's actually put together 3 or 4, 5 what are called model ordinances, essentially templates from which municipalities can then build their own series of additional ordinances that build on that state statute. Some of the highlights of this would be focusing on kind of targeted outreach around schools. So school zones are pretty heinous for, sitting there and idling your car, especially in the winter to keep kids warm. And I'm not talking about freezing kids to death. That's not the intention, but there's that portion of it. There's another strong portion around speaking with commercial and industrial users who are using large vehicles for shipping and emissions educations and idling education around our commercial and industrial users throughout the city. So nothing without money, right? And this is all actually, these model ordinance programs are all starting to fold into what is upcoming for new grant programs that specifically deal with community outreach and education around idling. So it's model ordinances and what follows being grant funding to help support community outreach and education if those anti-idling ordinances would be considered.
So the question for tonight is that a topic? Would you like to, have an introduction and kind of an overview from the Regional Air Quality Council, and then, hear more about and potentially step into the anti-idling? Any Monty Python fans here? I always think of Eric idling.
Anti-Eric.
Right. Eric Idle. Anyway, so that would be the question, and if you'd like to, then we can keep working on that for you and have that at a future meeting.
Everybody into that?
I think it's worth exploring, yeah. I don't know that we should be devoting like an entire meeting to it. It's one tiny piece of the emissions picture, but I think it's worth learning more about. And if there's some education and outreach and a model ordinance, we might want to put our weight behind. Need to learn a little bit more about it.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. All right.
We'll follow up. Shall I shift into this conversation
Yes,
then?
please. Do some introductions real quick.
Yes, good. Yes, yes, yes. We don't have our name today.
Go ahead.
Oh, Steve Martin, Mayor Pro Tem. Hi.
Scott,
You guys
Environmental
again.
Stewardship Board Chair.
Jeff Frazier, Environmental Stewardship Board member.
Reynolds Havow, Environmental Stewardship Board member. I'm Kelsey Dombrowski, board member.
Samuel Bundrick, guest.
Rob Hanna, Executive Director for South Suburban.
Andy Jennings, Director of Parks and Open Space, South Suburban.
Hannah Kite, Environmental Stewardship Board Vice Chair.
Jim Backlenburg, Littleton City Manager.
Brent Soderlin, Director of Public Works and Utilities for Littleton.
So we are very grateful to have South Suburban here. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Andy. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, so just to recap for the group and for our guests, coming out of this committee's environmental action plan recommendations and plan that we've now embarked on, one of the items was to help develop environmental practice standards for open space and parks, both with South Suburban and also with our own staff. So we've kind of evolved that into the challenge, for us to look at both the, properties, lands that the city owns and maintains, and also work with our partners on properties that they maintain. To try to develop some vision and standards around environmental practices. Ultimately, these could be formalized for the city and also, provide some additional, I think, texture for conversations that we'll be having next year with Rob and Andy, just about the overall operating agreement for the city and South Suburban. So at this committee's last meeting, you had an introduction and overview about the city's practices, the properties that the city manages. You heard about, challenges that we have, the goals that we have, some of the plans that we have, especially around irrigation replacement and efficiency. And also, I think a lot of that conversation focused on forestry and the planning that the city's done over the past couple of years with inventory and kind of realizing what we had and what the magnitude of the challenges were. So just that was kind of a refresh on the conversation last time. Our plan, as we talked about last time, was we would have that conversation so you could hear from our staff. Tonight, you could have some conversation with our South Suburban partners, and have some dialogue. What I'm thinking is you might share overview of how environmental sustainability fits within your master plan and your operations. There might be some conversations, some questions from our committee. And then in the future, following this meeting, you might take a couple meetings and do some of your own talking, your own research, as I know this group does. And then come back in a couple months and start to kind of assemble, your recommendations for those environmental practice, standards that could then, be recommended. And, the whole thing, we're working with staff, but then those could be referred to the city council and really kind of give the city operations some new kind of standards. And then, of course, while we can't mandate, we would work with our partners to work toward those for the properties in Littleton. So with that, I'll reintroduce Rob and Andy, and you can take it away.
Yeah, so I thought I would just start by giving kind of an overview of the district. I'm not sure if everyone's aware of what South Suburban is, and then Andy's here. He can go over specific projects, initiatives that we're doing and answer any specific questions. So South Suburban was incorporated in 1959, grassroots effort. It's a special district. We operate under the Colorado State Statute Title 32, as well as like sewer districts, fire districts, things like that. Right now, we have 46 square miles that we serve. It's about 155, 160,000 population. Within that, we serve 6 municipality boundaries, and we're within 3 counties. So elections are a little difficult, and serving 6 municipalities, all the way from Sheridan, all the way down through Lone Tree. Centennial, only half of Centennial, everything on the west side of I-25. The city takes care of everything on the east side of I-25. We have a number of amenities and facilities, 123 parks and open space sites, 4 recreation centers, 57 miles of regional trails, 64 playgrounds. We operate Hudson Gardens, South Platte Park, of course. We have 4 outdoor pools, 50 tennis courts. We have 4 golf courses, 2 skate parks, 7 nature play destination, 2 mini golf courses, BMX, dog parks, pickleball facilities, 5 sheets of ice that we operate, gymnastics, 3 indoor turf fields. So, and then your baseball, multi-purpose fields, obviously on top of that. So we're APRA accredited, which is our national organization, similar to fire departments, police departments have their national certifications. Parks and Recreation also has theirs. It's a pretty rigorous process to get initially, and then every 5 years, which we just did this past year. So we are receiving our reaccreditation at our national conference in October. We've also been nominated and awarded our National Gold Medal Award, which is kind of the elite award. They break it up into 5 different categories. There's a military, and then there's 4 categories depending on your population. So we are actually a finalist for that again this year, and we'll find out at the national conference in October if we are awarded that. So our mission is South Suburban Parks and Recreation District is a citizen-founded organization with a mission to foster healthy living through stewardship of the environment, parks, trails, and open space, and providing recreational services and programs to the community that we serve. As far as funding, we receive about 40% of our overall budget from property tax, another 40% in user fees, golf fees, program fees, class fees, and then about 20% from partnerships and grants. So it's a pretty equal split between what we get in taxes and what we get in user fees, which is a little bit unique. I've been in the park and recreation business my entire career, and usually it's more of a 60-40 type of split of 60% subsidy and 40% from user fees and grants and stuff like that. So I think South Suburban's pretty aggressive in how we operate and how we spend our money. So we have just under 9 mils of property tax that goes towards us. So on an average house, that's $350 a year. So we think that's a pretty good return on investment for all the amenities that we offer. So we also operate, we have our mission, and then we have our guiding principles. So our first guiding principle is quality first. So we aim to consistently create positive experiences for our community. Our second guiding principle is connecting community, create inclusive culture that welcomes and connects all members of the community. Enrich wellness, of course, with Parks and Recreation, prioritize the offering of indoor and outdoor different programs and varieties of programs that engages the community. Physical responsibility, of course, is a strong guiding principle. We need to operate with taxpayer funds, in a responsible manner. And then stewards of nature and sustainability is a guiding principle. So conserve and enhance the natural systems with green spaces, wildlife areas, water recreation that promotes interaction, with respecting nature. Southland Park, great example of a large scale of what we do, but also on a macro scale. So that's kind of who we are. I'll take any questions you have on that, or Andy can kind of jump into.
As you just kind of gave the overview of the district, would this be a good time to just mention kind of a flavor of the facilities and amenities that you manage for Littleton, so that the group
Andy, can you
Uh,
break that out?
I'm thinking trails and aquatic center.
I didn't bring the breakdown of acreage, of the parks and stuff, but,
We're working on that for Wednesday, though.
We have a joint meeting with the city council next Wednesday.
So that's what this PowerPoint is starting to come together on that. As far as population, it's about 30% of our overall population is within the boundaries of Littleton. So some 28 to 30% overall within the entire district.
The points that come to mind for me, just so that you have stats, the district manages near all of our parks, effectively. Do you manage Bega Park?
we have, Vega, you guys have a handful of small,
Small pocket parks and things like that, but when you think of parks, South Suburban, those, they manage they maintain all of our trails. The city owns and the district maintains Beck Rec Center.
So South Platte Park, Carson Nature Center, Littleton Golf and Tennis, Buck, Lee Gold's Trail, Mary Carter Greenway, Highline, Winnetka, Dog Park, Harlow Pool, Creekside Experience, Legal to Overlook. Those are some of the examples of things.
and Gallup.
Major for Littleton.
So, but kind of what I put together, based on the environmental stewardship and sustainability, what are some of the things that we do as we manage our programs or maintain the facilities within the district. First, in our first management programs, manage all of our water through a centralized irrigation system, which is all computer-based with flow sensors and all. So if we have a leak, it's detected, it's shut down, we get a notification, we can go out and make a repair so we don't have water just running down the street. We also use magnetic filters to deionize the irrigation water to make it more available to the plant, to lower the pH, and it allows it to penetrate the soil a little bit better. So again, it's available to the plant. We do soil conditioning through wetting agents, top dressing, managing the nutrients levels that we put out. We also use organic soil conditioners. We do some of our own composting with some of the grass clippings, some of the sod scraps that we have, or the aeration cores. And we'll generate about 40 yards of top dress each year that we can then use as top dress on the athletic fields and stuff. We also, we are phosphate free on our fertilizers, and we use carbon-based fertilizers on athletic fields, and we're experimenting some with peat-based fertilizers. These help condition the soil and improve the uptake of nutrients for the plants. We also have the use of alternative landscapes like a South Platte Park. We utilize buffalo grass in some of our program areas where we bring the public in, and we're showing them the different types of native plants and stuff that grow in Colorado. And we've got over by our little amphitheater and pavilion. That turf area in there is all buffalo grass. We also evaluate the different turf types, based on water use. So it's not like bluegrass is everywhere. If we have some fringe areas or whatever, they don't have as much traffic, or we need a nice green look, but without the wear and tear of say, an athletic field. So we're always looking at the different hybrids and stuff that are out there. We send our staff to extensive training for turf management so that we can best utilize our water resource and the turf that we have and have an attractive looking, safe place for the kids to play. We plant pollinators. We also offer classes in landscaping for the public out at South Platte Park, so that they can understand what type of different plants are available. We've got some demonstration gardens. I think one's over at Stern Park over on the east side. We've got one at the Nature Center at South Platte Park. Again, with labeling and everything to help the public know if we say, hey, here's some good xeric plants to use, water-wise plants to use. They can go see what that plant looks like, as it's maturing and not just in a little 4-inch pot. And we're switching out our annual flower beds over to perennial beds, and again, trying to incorporate more pollinators in these beds. We haven't done that completely everywhere, but that's a process we're working on to move forward with. We evaluate new technology and alternative fuel types for equipment. We've got mowers that we utilize propane, as well as gasoline, as well as battery. You're talking about rack. We used to, several years ago, we had an employee that participated in a local rack meeting, and we were able to tap into some grant funds that they had to help us purchase a battery operated riding mower, and then some other just various local equipment. And then over the last couple of years, we've been successful in getting some grant money from the state to purchase additional battery operated equipment, string trimmers, backpack blowers, push mowers. What else did we buy? Chainsaws. These didn't come under the grant, but we went ahead and worked with a local bike shop to get some e-bikes for the Rangers, so that we can get around the trails a little more efficiently and not have to take a truck down the trails. And then we also purchased an EV utility cart, and we used that also on the trails, as well as the Rangers do what we call these pop-up educational booths around the district. We do a lot of them in South Platte, South Platte Park, along the Mary Carter, Lee Gulch, and pretty much all the trails. We try to hit each of the municipalities within the district. But the Rangers go out and try and help educate on our rules and regs, on sharing the trails, coexisting with wildlife. We have an issue with coyotes in a neighborhood or something, and the HOAs may contact us or contact a ranger, then we'll go out and do a meeting in their neighborhood to let them know about coexisting with wildlife. Right now, one of the big things we're dealing with is distemper in raccoons. And we get a lot of calls about that. So the Rangers are doing an effort to educate the public on that. We actually we get the raccoons, take them off to a safer place where they can live out the rest of their few days on their own, rather than trying to take it to a rehabilitation center, because they won't take them anyway. But we deal with a lot of wildlife issues, the public, as well as, again, educating them on dogs off leash, cleaning up after your pets, the hazards and issues with that. But again, kind of getting back to some of the alternatives, all of our Zambonis and our facilities that we use to groom the ice, they're all battery operated. We have solar powered irrigation controllers at South Platte Park and on portions of the South Platte River. We've got an area where we're pulling some of the water from the Cooley Lake to do irrigation along the 10,000 trees project, and all of that is operated off of solar panels that we have out there. We do mixed stream recycling at the trailheads at South Platte Park, as well as at all of our facilities. We recycle all of our automotive fluids and tires, recycle all the aerosol cans, cardboard, aluminum, scrap metal, converted all of our facilities to LED lighting, motion sensors, so that when you leave, and your lights are going to go off, come on up and people aren't leaving the lights on. We utilize passive solar or South Platte Park at the Metal Arc classroom. Do biological control for weeds as well as mechanical control. A lot of that takes place again at South Platte, where Scott will bring in a variety of different insects and stuff that feed on these the plants and prevent them from being a seed head and reproducing, and so that's been fairly successful. We do that at the Rose Garden with the Japanese beetles, although that is a challenge everywhere. We have wasps that we bring in that attack and kill the beetles. We work with CSU on a variety of Japanese beetle control. About the waterways demonstration, we mulch all of our tree branches. We do a Christmas tree mulching program every year. We make that mulch available to the public, as well as utilize that in all of our parks. And then the GPS we've placed on all of our vehicles. It's through Verizon FleetNet or something like that. And we use that for idle control. We've got the alarm set at 10 minutes. If anybody's vehicle idles more than 10 minutes, then a message goes to the fleet manager and the vehicle operator, as well as that vehicle operator supervisor. And it also helps us just control vehicle use. We redistrict a couple of years ago to try and reduce driving from one end of the district to the other end of the district. So we have 5 park maintenance districts that we've spread out so that they're maintaining just the properties kind of within their areas, which has reduced driving and emissions and wear and tear on vehicles and everything. So that's kind of the quick overview of some of those things we do. Happy to answer any questions, or if you've got.
Yeah, as far as capital, we've been very aggressive in limiting our use of bluegrass turf. Since I've been with the district for 9 years now, we haven't built a single large multi-purpose or ball field out of bluegrass. It's all been synthetic turf, and we're in the process of changing our larger parks with multi-purpose fields from bluegrass to synthetic turf. Cornerstone's been our main priority, because that's been one of our larger uses of bluegrass turf for water conservation and everything. So we're just about to start the second phase of that and transferring all that into synthetic turf. Former position, I was the first person to use a synthetic infield turf for baseball fields. It hadn't been done in Colorado before. So first one to do that. So we're very aggressive on where we use bluegrass turf. So obviously, your native grasses, your buffalo will not take the abuse that some of our parks have. So we do still use bluegrass turf But we try and limit that only to active areas. We try not to put any bluegrass turf where you're not actively participating and not just for aesthetics, just in those areas of high use, that cannot, other grasses cannot take that. So we've sent, I don't know, we're on, we spent about $10 million at Cornerstone alone, just transferring that, from bluegrass. Well, we added lights too, so we did make some improvements in the parking lot and whatnot, but we made significant investments, into that program as well too.
And as we did the synthetic fields over at David A. Lawrence Regional Park, all of the area around the parking lots and stuff everything's native. And we're also working with, taking our open space staff and getting them additional training in how to maintain the native. So that, as a lot of these areas, the more you mow them, the more weeds you're gonna wind up with. And we do have areas where, you know, people are just like, oh, well, you know, Marshall Fire, you gotta mow everything behind my house. And when we do get in and mow, weeds begin to encroach. And so we have to have a kind of a balance in our weed control and our overseeing and trying to maintain and keep a healthy stand of native grasses.
So if you don't let the native grass grow high enough to where it starts to seed and the seeds mature and drop back down, if you're mowing them at, you know, even 3 or 4 inches, you'll never get that automatic seed germination. And within a couple of years, you will have 0 grass and it will be all weeds. So in some years, the native grass grows taller than others, and we get a lot more complaints. But it's really important as a management practice to make sure and let those grasses do what they naturally do. Like I said, in some wet years, they can get pretty tall before they mature, dry up, and drop their seeds, and it's appropriate to go in and do that. But again, if you don't, you'll never have a healthy stand of native grass like you would see just out in an open field.
We're revisiting our seed mixes to try and get away from a lot of these taller native grasses. Let's look for some low grow that's hopefully would look a little bit nicer. Still grows in the area. It may not be native to Colorado, but it's still a dryland grass. And so we're in the process right now of trying to evaluate those seed mixes.
Questions from the board? Thank you for that. I have questions if no one else does, but.
How many open space staff members do you have it's a huge area?
Yeah, we've got, what is it, 2,800 acres of open space. And when we're fully staffed,
Which is never possible.
I think there's 6 employees on that crew. And just like with I think our trail staff has 8 and 100 and some miles of trails, with a good portion of that being soft surface trails, which people like their soft surface trails. Every spring when we get the rains and stuff, we get the ruts and we have to go in and make those repairs. But we're finally kind of getting to a point where we can keep up with that a little bit better. Yeah, I mean, even with our forestry group, you know, we have 47,615 trees in the inventory. We have several thousand more that are like volunteer trees coming up in some of these natural areas that aren't on inventory. But we have a forester, assistant forester, a lead maintenance, and 2 techs. So 5 or 6 people there. And again, we're short a couple of people on that staff right now, trying to utilize a little more contract labor to help out with some of the pruning and removals. But yeah, it's be a challenge some days.
District-wide, we have a little over 300 full-time employees and about, at max, 1,600 part-time seasonal employees.
And what's driven each of those environment-related initiatives that you've been listing off? And I guess what I'm asking is, the city recently has tried to systematize its efforts in the direction of sustainability and stewardship by creating an environmental stewardship board and by hiring a sustainability coordinator and so on. Is the district considering any overarching structure like that for sustainability?
Currently, we have a volunteer committee made up of staff that make recommendations to me and the board. More focused on internal sustainability than, too much external, but they do, get into that a little bit. But right now, it's not a full-time position. It's a committee of staff.
And a lot of those recommendations that you just listed off, did those originate with the committee?
No, these are just more best management practices that we have picked up through our profession, all of our training. The Associated Landscape Contractors of Colorado is a local, it's the largest green industry conference in Colorado. And we send all of our staff to that every February. They really push and promote best management practices. So we try to incorporate that. We have a parks management plan. We kind of utilize as, here's what we are trying to accomplish. Tells us how to do that. Same with our forestry group. We've got a arboriculture, horticulture management plan. It tells you, when you're operating equipment, this is how you operate it. Here's our desire on, when you're pruning trees or planting trees or whatever, it kind of gives you the basis of what we want to accomplish, and then, utilize that as our guidelines. Everything just kind of falls within the best management practices of our profession.
Yeah, the committee was suspended around the COVID time area, and they really just started getting cranked back up. So their focus has been getting the website page updated and working on, again, more internal. So one of the recommendations they came up with was composting of all of our food waste for all of our restaurants. That was an example of a recommendation that came out of the committee. So we have food waste containers in our lunchrooms, and then at our restaurants, we work with some company that actually put a big bin out there. They come and take it, and then they brought some back not too long ago. Opened it up to employees and the public to use that compost. So all we had to do is, have a place for them, put their dumpster, and they would take it and compost it, and then the finished product they would bring back. So it was a great recommendation from the committee to find that through their research, and we have been utilizing that for about a year now, I think.
Can you tell us any more about the mechanics of that committee? Like, who's on it and how often do they meet? And is there sort of public access to their meetings or their recommendations?
It's really an internal, committee made of staff, just like our recognition committee or something like that. We don't publicly meet as a public meeting. It's again, really more of an internal meeting. They meet pretty often, so I don't know if it's once a month or once a quarter. Probably once a month. I think our HR department kind of heads that up.
But they have a website, you said?
That's what?
They have a website, you said, that they've been
We
working
have a
on?
website embedded in.
It looks like it's the ssprd.org/sustainability. So
And this committee updates that, or, okay.
Yeah, they work with IT to keep in our communications department, keep that updated. Like I said, it was stale through COVID until a year or two ago, where we reenacted that committee.
So I was kind of looking through that page as y'all were chatting, and there's some good statistics on here, and good projects, it seems like, that have maybe come out of that committee. One of the questions I had is there like comprehensive tracking or target set for some of these things like water usage, for instance? Like it talks about 4 million gallons of water, saved annually by replacing 270,000 square feet of grass with synthetic. synthetic turf, which is great, but like, what about overall water usage for the district? Is that tracked on an annual basis? Do you have targets around water reduction measures or trying to reduce, or targets around even like you talked about electrification of equipment? So, do you have an idea of what percentage of equipment is actually has been electrified? Were there plans to continue to increase that electrification amount?
The board has not set any specific percentage goals or anything like that. Yes, we do track that information, but the board of directors have not established any goals or got specific numbers to that for the staff.
We track all of our water usage.
So you could say like, 2023, here was the total district water usage and that, annually.
But the issue with comparing water year to year is, rainfall, drought,
Sure.
what's going on. So our goal is mainly to manage that water to the best ability we can. So if we have a wet year, try to manage it, reduce that usage. So you go back and look, oh, well, you really saved a lot of water, in 2013. Well, in 2013, we had a wet year, we managed things well, we kept it down. Maybe another year we use it a little bit more, but again, we manage it as efficiently as we can each year.
And we utilize water stations. How many water stations or,
Water stations.
weather stations, that's water stations, weather stations, cause the
Like
district
tied
is so
into the
big.
irrigation system,
Well,
basically.
we take that data and then the guys, when I sit down at the computer, they're working everything in because we have, it's 120 different irrigation systems out there. 3 different water providers that we have to deal with, different water rates, and we have a weather station at the shop that we utilize, and then we are able through that to tie into other weather stations around the district to gather data.
We have, all of our own wells, for the golf courses, and non-potable, and just, about 3 years ago, Family Sports Golf Course, is served by Centennial Water, Airport Water District or Authority. About 3 years ago, we, transitioned that over to non-potable, so all of our golf courses are on non-potable.
Is there any type of conversation among the board members about these topics, sustainability and stewardship, or can you give us a sense of sort of interest level or activity level there?
Yeah, a huge conversation because it's in our guiding principles, our master plan. So every 5 years we update it. Matter of fact, sustainability in the previous master plan was kind of a combination between physical sustainability and environmental sustainability. In this past time when we updated, we separated those so we could put more of a focus on the environmental and the financial. So we actually separated those out so we could be more specific in what those guiding principles really meant and how to benchmark those.
Is that master plan publicly available
It's on our
on
website.
the website?
Yeah, we have a master plan, a strategic plan.
Questions? Other board members?
Is there any like overarching plan where you're talking about lawn maintenance equipment being, in this group, we've talked about it being one of the bigger sources of emissions. Does the district have any plans, on obsolescence of existing equipment or policies to prefer going to electric when it's feasible? Or, it sounds like there aren't set guidelines or goals as far as adopting electrification of equipment necessarily, but you've done a fair amount of it in the past. Does any policy like that exist? And if not, I guess what's the mechanism for trying to adopt some of those longer term goals?
We don't have a written policy on it, but knowing that coming out of the governor's office are restrictions on utilizing gas powered combustible engines, and I think it's next June 1st to August 31st, anything under 10 horsepower cannot be operated between June 1st and August 31st by any government agency. So
For ozone, that's out of concern for ozone.
it's ozone and fuel and I forget all the.
2.5 or whatever.
But, so we've tried to get ahead of that curve and we put money in the budget every year for fleet managers to just go out and look for, you know, what's alternative, whether it's battery, you know, is there cleaner burning, you know, like the propane, that we use for the mower and the forklift at the shop, and, you know, is there other things like that that we can, take a look at, you know, let's not just say everything has to be a battery, because now we're running into all these banks of battery chargers, and the larger riding mower that was battery operated can't complete a park of one charge.
Yeah, the small stuff is easy, you know, just like what you would use in your yard, but as you get bigger and obviously, you know, the amount of covers that we have to have, the technology just hasn't gotten there quite yet.
That's an issue for the cities too. You know, it's one thing to have a couple hours of battery, but when you're looking at running equipment for a full day, industry is still kind of trying to.
And the trucks, you know, that are, you know, are 3/4, 1-ton trucks that are hauling all this equipment away, obviously, you know, again, that technology hasn't been there to transform that type of equipment. But, you know, whenever it does catch up, we'll be on, well, that's why we were testing that riding lawnmower. It's just,
We're actually looking at, and I don't think we want to demo it, but we've been looking at these remote control mowers, and they all work on GPS.
Roombas for ball field.
The thing is, they can only mow about an acre. And so we've talked to a couple of different vendors, and we're just not sure that the technology's there to make this successful. The other thing, when I was talking to the vendor, I was like, well, you can come out and set all the GPS points and then get everything ready and then turn it loose. But if you know, if you're gone, we're gone. These things are just running around out there. If somebody got injured or it stopped and someone stole it, and he was just, oh, I never thought about somebody stealing it. Like, well, yeah. So they currently cater to like large estates, and that's probably their market. Another thing the guys are looking at right now are goats. And we get some goats in to some of these areas that are difficult to mow that are native. So we're gonna try and get something set up by the end of the year. I'm just not sure we can get that worked out, but definitely taking a look at that as another option.
Andy, do you have a second list of environmental stewardship goals that haven't been accomplished yet, but that you'd like to?
You know, I'm not sure we haven't really sat down and said, here's the goal, we're gonna try and go forward to this. It's just, again, I guess back to our best management practices and the guys just brainstorming on, okay, what can we do that's gonna work for us? But we haven't established them, take them to the board, anything like that.
at this point, we're just struggling to keep up with what we're doing. You know, complaints on, you know, height of weeds and, you know, dead branches and dead trees and gravel over the trails and, you know, stuff like that. So, you know, we need to take care of what our highest priorities and safety first, and these are mandated and, you know, as best management practices recommend, we do those things, but we have not spent a lot of time on establishing specific goals and priorities at this point.
Are there things that you want to hear from us, what we're up to, or I'm certainly eager to take advantage of the fact that you're here and we can have a conversation about stewardship with.
Yeah, I guess I'd like to hear, you were talking about, you know, I guess come up with your goals and stuff and trying to work with us since we maintain parks in there. What are your top priorities and things that you are gonna bring to us to incorporate in your city?
Like one of ours was rewilding. One of our priorities, taking areas that can just be left alone. Using that.
Yeah, I totally agree. If nobody's walking on it, then it needs to be, but you know, again, been doing this a long time and I've cut zones of water off behind people's houses and areas that are not, and it gets ugly really quick. The phone calls, the emails to the elected officials. So love to do that, but in my experience, the only way that works is it comes from a grassroots effort. It's not big government making that decision. It's the community saying, this is what we want. So, if that's the case in Littleton, we would be more than happy to do that. I think where it fails again is trying to push that down on people. So, if that's a consensus and priority of the citizens and they're behind that to support it. We would love to go out, shut off zones that again are bluegrass turf for aesthetic reasons or what in some of our older parks. Because again, when I started doing this, you irrigated from each property line to each property line and called it good. We don't do that anymore, but obviously we've been around since 1959. Things have changed but it's hard to take away that lush green from people unless they say they want it.
There's gotta be education combined with any of those efforts.
It's gotta be huge and it's an uphill battle. I mean, we have residents that call every year saying, well, we don't like this native stuff. We want, bluegrass.
They call them weeds.
This is our, dealing with our property values, our quality of life, and and it's just ongoing. We're dealing with an area over by Acres Green right now. That very issue.
They came to the board last night.
So what do you do in those cases?
Well, in this particular situation, these people are going on vacation. I said, well, when you get back, we'll sit down and talk. But we also have SIMSWA, which is the stormwater, Southeast Stormwater Management Group. This particular area is a medium that is a drainage tributary for Willow Creek. So it's all native grasses, and SIMSWA wants to do some improvements to the drainage. And we're like, okay, these are concerns from the homeowners. How can we work together with them to create a new landscape that's gonna meet your needs as SIMSWA, the homeowner's needs for something that looks prettier, and then the state's requirements for no more bluegrass or irrigated grass in medians and right of ways. So we'll work together as a group to try and resolve that.
Again, in my former position, we picked off the low-hanging fruit. So the city council had a directive, we wanted to reduce, bluegrass, water and things like that. So what we went after is, first of all, we went after medians and right-of-ways. Because nobody steps foot on medians and right-of-ways. South Suburban doesn't hardly do any medians and right-of-way, so that low-hanging fruit's not available. But that's what we did in my former position as a community is we started with those. And that made a huge difference. Passed ordinances for developers, when they went in and did new developments or redid, existing developments that you couldn't have more than 10% of bluegrass and medians and right-of-ways had to be native, and it could only be drip irrigation, no spray heads, because a lot of these like mineral, steep, so it takes a lot more water because they're so steep within those right-of-ways. And again, nobody steps on them. So instead of focusing on cutting off zones and parks and getting people all upset, again, the low-hanging fruit was were these areas that nobody utilized, so, that's what we did in that organization.
Anything else people want to talk about? Jim, do you have anything to?
I know.
City perspective?
I know, one of the big topics when you were talking with our staff was about forestry and just, the emphasis that we have on it, and just the need to, coordinate more as they, for Littleton, so many of our trees are in the parks. And, I think we haven't had inventories and professional forestry for that many years now, just a few years. So we've really been alerted to the condition of the trees, and the need to really manage that. And, certainly emerald ash borer is something that we've gotten real serious about with a plan to, I guess 20% of the trees, in our area are generally ash trees. So, that's something that we want to coordinate more, especially as we see more of that. It's important. We think that, the city and South Suburban, are in lockstep as much as we can be about those issues. And just, I think forestry in general, we have such a, mature canopy that's an important part of what makes our community really special. And so that's been important to council, and we've been funding that more. So that's something that we will talk more about.
Just to kind of tag on to that, we just completed a forest management plan. It's the Cottonwood Forest in South Platte Park. And we've seen a decline over the last 10 years of the cottonwood trees in the park. And so we brought in a consultant, and we went through about a year-long process of identifying these different forest sections. And we've got a irrigation system and a portion of that park to help sustain the forest that was built 20 some years ago. And we got that system back up and running because they rerouted Dad Clark to Santa Fe development, it's called. And so we're losing a good portion of that water that was feeding that forest. So this irrigation system will then help sustain the forest that's there. Anyway, we've identified, here's different sections of cottonwood and other species within the park. So how do we manage what's there? So they're giving us a kind of an outline of here's what we're going to do to manage these different pockets of trees, from prunings to removals to new plantings, to try and tap into some of the groundwater that's in the areas. So we've got that plan in place.
So that's a plan that's in place. That would be good for us to just kind of compare notes on. And
We gave Kelsey and Mary both a copy of the plan. I mean, they just literally finished it up earlier this year.
oh, good.
But we have a nursery, about 300 trees are in the nursery. It's over at South Suburban Golf Course. We plant about 150 trees a year throughout the district. And I want to say we're in the 50 to 60 range that we plant in Littleton each year. And we submit those numbers. I think you guys are Tree City or working on Tree City. But I want to say our inventory in Littleton is in the 20 to 25,000 range of trees, number of trees. Again, trees that are listed on the inventory, they're still, when you get along legal and stuff, there's just a lot of volunteer, smaller, different trees, a variety of trees. When we went down the Island Canal, we took a tour of that with the Conservancy, and then the group that they've brought in to help create kind of the natural resource plan for the Island Canal. And identifying that there's a wide variety of trees, not just cottonwood growing along there. And it's like, okay, what are some some of the volunteer trees that are establishing themselves that we want to keep to help replace that canopy. So you don't have to buy something, you don't have to go out and hand water it. So, yeah, we love working with Mary. She's,
Mhm.
you know, excellent on the forestry side of things and, yeah.
Is there a overarching for like Emerald Ash Borer, management plan to try to get ahead of, you know, some of the trees that might be susceptible?
Yeah, I know our forester worked with Mary and I think some others in the vicinity to create a Emerald Ash Borer plan. I know the discussions I've had with our management and maintenance staff is to the degree that we've got an ash tree that's in poor health, those are the ones we want to get out of here as soon as we can. Because those are the ones that are most susceptible to the ash borer coming in and multiplying and growing. So I know that they, you know, I could have a crew that 100% of the time, that's all they did. And don't have the resources to make that happen. But as we're in an area and we've identified, yeah, here's some that just need to come down. Let's get them out and then work on a replanting plan. So.
As an aside for the committee, Kelsey, Mary couldn't be here tonight, and Kelsey is now out on family leave. She had her baby early last week, so they would have been here, but they wanted to be part of this conversation, so.
Here, I'll just give her a call.
She would welcome that, I'm sure.
We absolutely realize you all have so many competing priorities. And you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't in many situations, like with neighbors, if you're trying to promote natives. And what we're trying to find, I think, is ways we can promote goal setting and improved environmental practices in partnership and work together to find, okay, what's a sweet spot that, you know, we can make recommendations to you all, you may, you know, tweak those, come back to us, but that's kind of the overarching idea, I think, of this meeting, to learn more so we can see how can we try to improve not only Littleton's, but everyone's sustainability.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. It needs to come from citizens like you, committees and, you know, groups like that, instead of, you know, our board or somebody just kind of making those decisions and pushing them down. That's the only way these things are successful, when you're going in and really changing, you know, what people have been used to, and the whole, you know, wholesale type of things.
Can you explain more what you mean by that? And the reason I ask is because we have now two versions over more than 5 years of a district-wide master plan that both identify sustainability as a guiding principle. And what more of a grassroots effort does it take for the board to take systemic action on climate change in the district?
I'm sorry, my apologies, I have hearing aids and.
No, I'm saying, so we've got a master plan that identifies environmental sustainability as a core principle. So what more of a grassroots effort do you mean for the board to be able to take action on sustainability in a systemic way? In other words, the grassroots have spoken, right? We went out and we did a master planning effort. The district citizens identified their values, one of which is environmental sustainability. So now it's for the board to act, you know?
I think we've been doing a good job. We've been spending, you know, money transferring the bluegrass turf. I think we've met the goals of what the master plan says.
Right. Speaking out of place, let me know, but I think what Rob was saying on grassroots is, you know, having citizen committees come forward saying, we want this to be, you know, wild native areas. Yeah, it's in the master plan. You had a lot of public meetings, and you may have had, you know, certain questions that they got to choose from. But what's that representation of the whole residential base? And you say, well, we've got the information from the public, now we're gonna go implement it. Well, they may still be looking at this as, well, here's the government pushing this back down on us. At least that's.
More specific type of opportunities, like take an individual park or something and saying, okay, really get into that and say, these are the areas that the community would support, turning off the zone. So I think the role of the board sees, okay, we have an overarching goal of doing this. And we're doing it where we can, in areas of either battery operated, stuff or whatnot.
One example might be our recent Kettering Gallup master plan, where we worked with a district on that plan, and through the plan, we've now identified areas throughout the park where we can, do some rewilding, where we can have, it's, I think all parties saw that it was advantageous to have more natives. So, I don't know if that meets the goals that you're thinking of, but I think that's a way, as we look at Jackass Hill and Ridgeview parks, that's where we're trying to list, where we're talking about the, opportunities for more natives, for rewilding, and especially trying to, gain that buy-in from the residents. And I was at the Ridgeview Park meeting that the district held last week, and they were showing pictures of, talking with the residents about how that park, it's the new park without the pond is going to be mostly a drainage area, but within that, no one was talking about bluegrass. It was about natives and more wild. And so I think that's the way that I'm seeing that happen through some of these kind of park planning partnerships.
Well, in just the public engagement, when you take location, I've been in this profession 42 years, and every time I've been through this process and we feel like, okay, we're good, we're going to do this. Well, then the neighbors that live next to it said, oh yeah, I support that, but not in my backyard. I thought you were going to do that somewhere else.
Rewilding sounds nice.
But this is my property, my backyard, my park. And I think that's what Rob was talking about with the residential pushback on some of this, and education.
Yeah, like education
Is the key. I just haven't figured out an education process looks like.
I would say, just as a, idea for the committee, we had a similar conversation with the Transportation Mobility Board on Tuesday, but I think one of the things, and now that we have an action plan, you'll be continuing to work on that. I think education, the more ideas, if you have some legwork to help with some of the values that we're talking about. We're gonna have a sustainability coordinator. We're building these conversations into all of our discussions about our space that we maintain and own, and we're partnering with the district. But I think the more that this committee can help with some of that grassroots, some of the neighborhood level education. You mentioned the importance of that, and why would you want to have natives, and why wouldn't you want the pretty green grass behind your house? I think once we have our sustainability coordinator on board, we'll be doing more of that. But I think you're as powerful as the city staff is in developing some of that material and some of those arguments for why we need to do more.
Yeah, are there like national organizations that you guys work with on sustainability or environmental stuff that they say, hey, and somewhere else we have a similar situation, and here was our educational efforts, or here's our, whatever that could help. with having a read business.
Our staff does. I'm trying to think of the name of the
So there is
environmental.
they're starting to, some of the different city groups similar to ours are coming together and they're trying to figure out a name for it, but it's like Front Range, environmental stewardship committees or something like that. But that's kind of starting. I think they've only had like one meeting so far, and I don't think any of us made it to that one. I think we found out about it. I found out about it after the fact. So that's one that we would like to be involved in, where we could see how other cities, it's more city versus like a district has handled it, but still, I'm sure they interact with similar organizations as well. So that's one that we can potentially try to see some best practices from.
And we'll be looking, I think, and there is a national organization that I'm not thinking of the name, but I know that as our staff is kind of developing, we think our standards should be, there are those documented practices. So perhaps your staff or you, that is something that you're already part of, but.
Well, I have staff going to COSA, which is the Colorado Open Space Alliance, next month. And I'll ask them to, kind of see what they have that might pertain to some of this.
All right, well, maybe we can pause it there and let Rob and Randy get on with it live. We can take a quick break and come back and just finish up any business we have as a committee, if that's all right with everyone. Thank you both so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very
Appreciate
informative.
that.
See you next week.
Take five, are you?
Yeah, just let's take 5
I'm gonna
minutes.
go run from upstairs.
Thank you both.
The RAC can't put enough money into those asset like electrification transitions. They run out of that money so fast. And like,
It is.
it's like, it's such a
I
small.
got an electric